This is the next episode of DRAMEDY, and it's about Bobba Fett. And it's about the episode 6, which is available now in Australia after 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, February 2nd, which is today. So it's available from now. I think a few different regions got it a bit earlier than us, but I've just watched it, and there's no spoilers, or there might be some mild teasering, but there's no spoilers as such. I'm going to be very guarded in the way I talk about it, because you all should have an ability to watch it yourself, and it's something you should watch. So there is some difficult choices happening in episode 6, which was set up in episode 5. Episode 5 was a very odd episode, as in it's called Bobba Fett, and his name was only mentioned once. And it seemed to be Amando season 3, episode 1 almost. So it was really wild to see him, and a really entertaining episode. And it's really bad that Bobba Fett, which is the canon of the show, is not even mentioned, like, other than just like in passing, really, really fast, like really, really fast. So this episode 6 is obviously a little bit more emotional. You do see some characters pop up who you haven't seen for a really long time, and they have really difficult choices. All I can say is there's an example within Indian life where you have a small child, and I think it's the Annaprashan or something, the first solid food ceremony, and they also, after they've had their first food, they lay out a couple of different things that the baby should be able to crawl towards, like education, the Bible, maybe a musical instrument, more food again, just to see which way the baby is going to walk and which path it's going to pick. Now, sometimes it picks something like a book, and you go, oh, yes, clap, clap, clap. It's going to be educational. Then they might pick religion with a religious book, and you go, oh, yeah, they're going to be religious. Or if they just go for the food or something, they're like, oh, this kid just wants to eat. Music, arts and crafts, they might put something there. If they go for that, they go, oh, yeah, that's good. Hopefully they have a plan B as well as being artistic, because this is like an Asian Indian tradition to put your baby down and put a couple of things in front of them and see which path they're going to pick, basically, which means whichever direction they're going to crawl to and walk to, whatever it is. So all I'm saying, why I'm telling you this, is it'll make a lot of sense when you watch the episode, because I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen, but it goes along that line of, well, you're a baby, you're a kid, not yet a Padawan, maybe just a foundling, oops. Which way are you going to go? So what path are you going to choose? Like, obviously what they choose when they're 3-4 months old is not really what's going to dictate their life. I mean, it's just nature and nurture, what happens to them, I guess. Again, that is also in play. I mean, and distractions, although how, nice of a distraction is given, I think everyone stays on task on Boba Fett episode 6. I think everyone sees the bigger picture and goes, well, there's a little bit of, you can win, the battle, but do we want to win the war? Yes, we want to win the war. So, and there's also some creepy dudes at the end, like a creepy dude at the end, who is like the stuff that's made out of nightmares, but times it by least 100, at least. I mean, it doesn't look so creepy because they've put him in the daytime, in the middle of the desert in the daytime. If they put him in a dark alley and you could just see what this creature is at the end, then maybe it'll be a bit more creepy. They have tried to scare us as such, but it was scary. This new villain as such that we have gotten. But yeah, it's so interesting, and family does matter. I'm going to get off task and topic. I'm going to talk about Australian Survivor, which has had the episode 2 already, and I'm pretty sure episode 3 is probably on right now. But I can at least talk to you about blood and water and family. It seems that putting family on the other side of the other team, there's a lot of, I'd say, extra kindness with this survivor, although they're being quite, being really sporty and playful and going really hard on these challenges against their family. They're also thinking about them all the time, going, I wonder what they're doing over there, how they're living and how things are going. And I hope they're well, they're eating and they're at least sleeping well. In the Survivor, it's showing that bond, whether it's mother and daughter. Yes, I'm talking about Sandra and Nina from Survivor. That's like you could have a whole podcast on that just by itself, but I'll just mention that. And the brothers and sisters, in-laws, it's a whole mix of people in there, but it's the Australian Survivor. It's called Blood and Water. So you got to bring your family member in, and they're all standing on the first episode together going, yeah, our team is so good because we're so bonded. And then the guy was just like, okay, one of you go this side and one of you go this side from that team, because everyone gets 2. Everyone's like freaked out, going, yes, what's going on? Okay, this side's called blood, this side's called water, and you got to verse each other. So whoever you came in with is now your opponent. So again, I'll talk about a little bit of an Indian twist that I found about it. How, there's a great war, where our little heroes going, I can't fight these people because they're my family. And then somebody in the ear is saying, you have to because it's the right thing to do. And I'm not going to say names because I don't want to put too much religion spin on this, but and obviously I do know the stories, and I don't want that to become a topic because religious things on a conversation usually don't go very well. But we all know the story. If you know, you know. So they go, you have to because it's the right thing to do. But oh my God, like that's all my uncles and family on that side. What the hell, So in that sense, it's blood versus water Survivor. I think I'm trying not to make too many inclinations. Indian stuff is always like connected somehow to all of this, but I have made some connection. So one thing I'll give away from Survivor, the second episode, is that, as I said, they've been very sweet. It's just like the sweetest Survivor that I've ever, not the sweetest as in meaning how, naughty or up to cheek they're up to. I mean really sweet as in nurturing sweet. I mean, they, look, the one team won the challenge and the other team didn't. And there was a 2-part win. So that one team could have taken both of those wins, which are going to be useful things in the camp for them to use. But then the host said, "Hey, your family's that side, standing over there." We all know how they've been faring. They only got fire going by the third day. This is the fourth day. They haven't eaten properly, and you can see that they're really malnutritioned and they haven't slept well. And then the team that won was like, "Oh, we'll take half of the winnings and give them comfort." Now, this is pillows, tarpaulin, uh, blankets, even. That they said, "Look, just take half of our winnings, although you guys lost, and this is completely out of place in Survivor. Please take this other half." Now, because the winning team, who got fire started as soon as they started at the camp 3 days earlier, they've made a pretty good structure, which is a little bit falling apart right now, but it's pretty good actually. It just needed a couple of tweaks to get the shelter proper. So they've been sleeping well and eating well, their rice and beans and whatnot. So giving the other team comforts like tarpaulin and pillows and blankets and things was okay, because they said, "We started our camp very, very strongly. We've been eating well, sleeping well. We've made it pretty comfortable. We pretty much did a pretty good job on it. So we'd like you to have that comfort." So it was very sweet. This is like the host who's been hosting for a very long time, especially in the Australian show. I mean, it's unheard of that, because this is a ruthless show. I mean, obviously, hint, hint, it's got Sandra and Nina in it. So again, it shows the bond. I'm going to bring it back to the Bobba Fett. So the bonds are very strong. A couple of characters are so strongly bonded that you just go, "Oh, we know what's going to happen here. This is only one way it could go, but then there's another way." So, and obviously the Mandalorian tagline is, "This is the way." So, you know. Another thing that I watched was The Voice Generations. I was able to be a part of that in some way. You might see that on the Generation show on a particular song of a particular contestant, because there's two of them. And I did tape for the semi-final and the final of The Voice. So although we haven't started the normal voice with the auditions even, I know who the semi-finalists and the finalists are. Obviously, I'm struck with complete, you can't say anything to anyone about it. So that's all I'm going to say, as I was in the audience for both those. So I have some partaking in the generations, a small thing. And I mean, when I say things or I'm involved, I'm just in the audience, just clapping and being obnoxious. Woo! And I usually sound off like whoop, whoop, whoop. So if you hear this very distinct sound of whoop, 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 it's probably me. Okay. So just whoop, 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 woot, woot, woot. That's probably me. All right. So, I mean, and obviously, if you're most obnoxious and on taping and whatnot, you actually do get on the show, because when they pan across the audience, if you're being obnoxious and crazy and emotional, whether you're crying or happy or just out of your face, like, "Oh my God, I'm sitting in front of Guy, Rita, Jess, and Keith," like, starstruck. As long as you have some type of emotion and feeling, you're probably going to be, while you're in the audience, taped and put on there. So, and it had better ratings on the first day of Generations than Survivor and MAFS, Married at First Sight. So there was a nice couple there. There was one good couple and there was one bad couple in the first episode of MAFS. There was Seelan and Anthony, who were very cute, and they both found out that they're both parents of one child each. When they met at the altar, it was made a bit clear that they're parents. So that was a good match. The other bad match was Tamara and Brent. Like, saying that people who work in retail and hospitality and a toy shop, which is just given as an example, are below and beneath Tamara's scope. That people can have those jobs and go and mingle and mix across that levels, but average just isn't what she's looking for. And obviously, we've seen Brent's, wrap-up tape before he got married, so we all know he's a great businessman in hospitality, and he's done lots of great things, and he's in no way, shape, or form, done dirt poor poverty, which is fine if he was. I mean, he's a lovely bloke, but he's not going to give her the full story because she already judged him. So Tamara's now like the villain of the story. And there was a very cute thing, a very, very cute thing in maths on the first episode, which was Brent's man of honor. His name was Levi, and I did find him on Instagram, and boy, oh boy, does he take his shirt off and wander around shirtless a lot, but he's good for it. I think I read that he's an Indigenous person, and you can hire him for all types of acting, marketing duties. But he did say on his Instagram that Brent is actually his real friend. This is not a paid gig where he's been asked to act a certain way because he's an actor or a model. He's not been brought in for any other reason than he is actually Brent's best man. They actually do know each other properly, and it's a proper wholesome thing. But Levi was just like, he's very easy on the eye, obviously. So if you want to watch the first episode back of Maths Australia, he's very nice. So, you can't judge a book by its cover. And obviously, bringing back to Bobba Fett, when we see the Marshal again from Tatooine, I've kind of forgot who he was for 10 seconds before I figured out who he was again. And I remember he lost his armor, and so I'm like, how is he going to fight and keep himself safe? And obviously, the last bit of the show where we get our creepy fellow in, but it's the middle of the day in the daytime, so it's bad, but it's not so bad. It's creepy, but it's doable creepy. You can pass through him, but he is very creepy guy at the end. And we sure do hope that Marshall did have his armor, but he doesn't. So, and there's some other armor flying around, which is of a small make and shape for somebody special. But as I said with the Indian story, it depends which way the kid will walk towards which of his destinies, and what he'll actually choose. Because the two options on the board for the pathways of his life are very, very interesting. Like, they're both great. So one is more of a bonded thing, and one is like, you could be really powerful one day. Not today. Today's not your day because you're going to have to work and train and earn that right. But the other option is to bow out and go back to your usual life. So it was a great episode, and there's some really great TV, and there's some great TV for Australia to come. So this was on Disney Plus, Boba Fett. So every Wednesday at 7 p.m. a new episode comes out. So it's pretty good. So SAS Australia with Ant Middleton and a few new commanders will be starting in February. I do know they were probably trying to start on the 31st of Jan like everyone else did, but they were very smart to hold off it. They're not telling us a start date now. They're just saying February because they can understand that there's 3 huge shows going on just normal TV. I'm not talking about on streaming like Bobba Fett. They're not even putting that in. They're not even putting that in the scope that there's all these great streaming shows. We're just talking about normal Australian TV shows. The big 3 channels, 7, 9, and 10, have all got big shows. Survivor, Maths, and The Voice. So SAS Australia was supposed to start within that pack as well. But I think it's very smart that they've spaced themselves from that because it's a lot of, you're going to skew the Australian public where they're going to watch and how they're going to watch. And it'll just become too much and people just rush through it. Sometimes they get an extra score if people rewatch things. And I think, or watch it properly, like not flick channels. And it's all on prime time. So they didn't want to fight and battle through that. I think they want it to be a little bit spaced out so that people do watch it gainfully. And there's some nice characters in there. There's Lockie Gilbert, who yes, on his teaser, he says, this is my 4th show. I've been on The Bachelor and I've been on Survivor and this is my 4th reality show. I'm so good. I'm the alpha male. And then we get, he's not a sweetheart, but to me, he looks sweet. Paulie Fennick, who's from Fat Pizza, which is still available to watch on Channel 7 Mate. And Channel 7, you could, on the catch-up service, just go on to the Channel 7, and in the search bar, type Fat Pizza. You can watch both episodes, and you can find out who Paul Fennick is on Fat Pizza. So it's available still. It's still on the 7 streaming, and 7 is obviously a free app. So those in Australia can watch Fat Pizza, where Paul Fennick is from. Now, I think Lockie Gilbert and Paul Fennick have been saddled in together and it's not going so well. But Lockie seems to be pinned in that relationship as a bit of a villain. And obviously Paul Fennick is the underdog because he's always an underdog. He's a small little, I guess a smaller Rottweiler than Lockie Gilbert is. Probably Lockie Gilbert would probably be the big Rottweiler and Paul Fennick would be the little Rottweiler, but both have a lot of pull and energy. So it's really interesting what they've teased on the teaser ads online. But I did like Lockie Gilbert from the other shows, but I think I'm definitely Paul Fennick, Team Paulie from Fat Pizza, because he is such an underdog and you just really don't think he's going to go far. And Lockie's obviously the alpha male who does this stuff year round anyhow because he's made a lot of money and he's just been hiking and living in bushes and doing all this outdoorsy stuff and training all this time. I don't think he's been holding down a proper job for the past at least 3 years or so. I think the prize money that he gets from all these things has meant that he's had quite a relaxed life where he could just train and learn all of his survival tips and just be in the frame of mind to be able to do this show all day long. Like he's thinking about it and preparing, whereas all these other stars and celebrities have got their own lives and they're busy with things. So yeah, I did like Lockie before, but I'm Team Paul Fennick. So thank you very much for listening to Dramedy. it is about Boba Fett, episode 6. And I've tried to tie in, the underdogs versus, the alphas, which is the theme across the Boba Fett episode 6. You do know who the alphas are and you do know who are the underdogs, but obviously we're not on the side on this episode 6. We don't feel like we're on the alpha side right now. We think we're very underdog side, and I hope that we can get across. And obviously it's a Star Wars show and they want us to watch, and they're not going to give us too much grief, I hope, meaning that they're not going to let us lose too much. Hopefully there's some gain in it. And that's how all of these shows have tied in together. Bye-bye. You can also hear me on Spotify. Just type in the word DRAMEDY, DRAMEDY, or my name, Shika Chandra, on Spotify. And I make content through Anchor, which is like a voice translation in like a post that's shareable online. So I'll be posting that soon with similar posts and chit chat and topics that I've done here. I'm using this space as a space to at least practice what I'm going to say on these other places. And thank you for listening. So remember, put me on Spotify. I mean, on Bacha, there's about more than 300 million people on there. And here is Shika, little Shika Chandra from Dramedy, also with a Spotify podcast. So, so I'm up there with everybody else. I've also got a Patreon site, so it's Shika-Chandra1. You can find me on Patreon. There's some things I offer through that. And I'm also on Fiverr, which means that I can offer some services through that as well. Other than that, I'm probably going to rehash and re-say these things across a lot of different platforms. But you're hearing it first because, as I said, I'm using this as a first draft. So goodbye.